Good day. Welcome to today's presentation. We will be discussing on the matter of organ harvesting. Should it be considered a crime against humanity and examine whether new laws are needed or existing laws are adequate to address the potential challenges in proving such a crime. So now let us begin. My fellow groupmates will take over from here.
Hello and a very good day. My name is Nur Alina Sofia and I'll be starting off this presentation with the introductions to what is organ harvesting. So organ harvesting has been proven time and time to be a very violating act and is a crime against humanity. It is an activity that no human being in the world should ever be subjected to. Organ harvesting can be defined as the illegal practice of surgically removing a victim's organ against their will. So victims are often tricked into undergoing an operation under anesthesia. However, their organs would be forcefully removed without even obtaining their prior consent. So many victims of forced organ harvesting have previously been exploited through human trafficking or other forms of slavery. Hence, it is relatively easier for them to be lured in again by organ harvesters to do their bidding. Other victims are murdered on demand and have their organs removed to fulfill an order. So according to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, the organ that has been the most harvested are kidneys and then followed by the livers. Organ harvesting also violates the right to life and also the right of protection against torture and inhuman acts, according to various human rights conventions, because no human deserves to be subjected to such treatments, and unless it is permitted by the law, no human should also be tortured or implemented any sort of prolonged suffering. However, some questions are still left unanswered. Although there have been many organ harvesting incidents and states that have acted against them, can organ harvesting actually be classified as a crime against humanity? In addition to this, it is also crucial to identify the sufficiency of the law in curbing this issue. There are multiple treaties, conventions, and also statutes that prioritize human rights and aim to protect the human life, but are they adequate as they are? Therefore, in this presentation, my groupmates Dannielle, Yasmin, Vishay, and myself will lay down the answers to these questions and provide our stance on the matter.
Thank you, Adelina. Now I will explain what constitutes organ harvesting as a crime against humanity. First of all, what can be said of crime against humanity? Crime against humanity, known as CAH, was first introduced in a treaty in the 1945 Nuremberg Charter at the end of the Second World War, which eventually brought a different definition to our current situation since it had not been codified yet. In a literal meaning, CAH can be defined as a specific crimes committed in the context of a large-scale attack targeting civilians, regardless of their nationality. These definitions can be enlightened by referring to ICC Statutes, Article 7, that provided that CAH means any of the following acts when committed as part of a widespread or systematic attack directed against any civilian population with knowledge of the attack, like murder, extermination, enslavement, deportation, or forcible transfer of population, imprisonment or severe deprivations of physical liberty, torture, rape, sexual slavery, persecutions against any identifiable group, enforced disappearance of persons, the crime of apartheid, and other inhuman acts that cause great suffering. We also can refer the definition to other relevant law. For instance, we have the Statute of the International Tribunal for Rwanda, which established that they have the power to prosecute persons responsible for committing all the wrongful acts mentioned above. In addition, we also have the Statute of the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, known as ICTY, Article 5, which pertains to crimes against humanity. This statute grants jurisdiction over only those CAH committed in armed conflict, whether international or internal, signaling a departure from customary international law. Even though the UN did not codify a specific CAH, they already took effective steps to create a treaty to address these crimes. So talking about CAH, would organ harvesting would be considered as CAH. So organ harvesting is known for organ removal, which is an illegal practice of surgically removing a victim's organ against their will and without consent. They are forcibly removed and assist with the elements of deception, fraud, or abuse of a position of vulnerability through a local advertisement and social media or by direct recruiters. In this era of globalization, many of these things happen generally in India, Japan, and China, where they kidnap women and children and transport them illegally to execute this criminal operation. So during the process, some of them have been raped, tortured, and grievously been killed. The body will be later opened, and this organization will take the organ for transplant. That is why it is easy to acquire all these organs from the black market nowadays. So these unlawful acts that subsist are major and it fall under the acts mentioned by Article 7 of ICC. One of the reasons of the UN emphasizes this matter is because a wide range of the facilitators like healthcare officials, hospital administrators, customs officers, and local recruiters are involved to ensure smooth operations. And these people are also working for the government. This does amount to abuse of power and positions to gain advantages and benefits illegally. That's all from me. Next, I'll pass the floor to the next person. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin. Now moving on to the part of adequacy of existing laws. Well, we can say that the legal framework governing crimes against humanity is extensive and has evolved to address a wide variety of inhumane acts. However, its adequacy in tackling organ harvesting, as it is particularly a heinous crime which requires a thorough examination. The Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court (ICC) provides a proper legal framework for prosecuting crimes against humanity. Article 7 of the statute defines such crimes to include inhumane acts that cause great suffering or serious injury to mental or physical health. Systematic organ harvesting, particularly when it is done as part of widespread attacks against civilian populations, which fits within this definition. However, the statute does not explicitly mention organ harvesting, which leaves room for interpretive challenges when prosecuting such crimes. While the Rome Statute is aggressive in its scope, where its generality can hinder its application to specific and emerging issues such as organ harvesting. Furthermore, the Geneva Conventions and their additional protocols are vital in addressing inhumane acts, particularly in armed conflicts. These conventions strictly prohibit cruel treatment and ensure that medical ethics are upheld during warfare. In this context, organ harvesting violates the principle of humane treatment and the dignity of individuals. While the Geneva Conventions cover such acts comprehensively in the context of war, they are less effective in addressing similar crimes occurring in peacetime. The International Nations Covenant on Civil and Political Rights (ICCPR) further strengthens the legal framework by prohibiting torture, cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment under Article 7, where organ harvesting without consent constitutes a clear violation of this principle. However, the ICCPR's enforcement mechanisms are often limited, which heavily relies on cooperation on a state and voluntary compliance. The United Nations Conventions Against Transnational Organized Crime (UNTOC) adds another layer of protection by addressing organ trafficking as part of organized criminal activities. While UNTOC provides tools for combating trafficking networks, where it does not explicitly equate organ harvesting with crimes committed against humanity. In conclusion, while the existing legal framework is broad enough to encompass organ harvesting under crimes against humanity, it is not without its flaws. The Rome Statute, Geneva Convention, ICCPR, and UNTOC collectively address various aspects of the crime, but their limitations such as ambiguity, enforcement challenges, and the gaps in peacetime application where it reveals the need for improvements. Furthermore, enhancements such as explicit provisions on organ harvesting, better investigative tools, and increased international cooperation could significantly improve the adequacy of the current legal framework in addressing this heinous crime. That's all from my part. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishay. So now let us move on to the key requirements for new laws and improvement to existing ones to combat organ harvesting effectively. So the key requirements for new laws are firstly to explicit definition in international law. To combat organ harvesting, we need a clear, explicit definition in international law. This will distinguish it as a standalone crime when necessary, leaving no room for ambiguity in legal interpretation. Such a definition ensures uniform understanding and application across jurisdiction. Secondly, a core component of any new legal framework must be mechanisms to protect victims. This framework should include immediate safety measures for survivors and reparations for affected families to aid in healing and recovery. Thirdly, to ensure accountability, international bodies such as the United Nations or the International Criminal Court must be empowered to investigate and prosecute organ harvesting effectively. These entities need the authority and resources and jurisdiction to act decisively. Cross-border cooperation, since organ harvesting often involves transnational networks, global collaboration is vital. We must foster cooperation between nations to trace and dismantle illicit organ trade networks. This includes information sharing, joint investigations, and unified enforcement protocol. Moving on, the suggestions for improvement of existing law, we can see that to enhance the detection and accountability, we must strengthen the investigative mechanism, establish specialized investigative bodies such as enhanced UN fact-finding missions dedicated to uncover organ harvesting activities, leverage advanced forensic and medical techniques to identify and document organ harvesting cases accurately. Secondly, amendments to existing law are amending the Rome Statute to explicitly classify organ harvesting as a crime against humanity. This inclusion will empower the International Criminal Court to address these crimes with the seriousness they deserve. Introduce new international protocols that directly address organ trafficking and its connection to broader human rights abuses. Thirdly, a victim-centric approach. A justice system should prioritize victims. Therefore, strengthen reporting mechanisms that make it easier for victims and witnesses to come forward, and enhance international cooperation to provide justice and reparation, ensuring affected individuals and families receive the support they need. All in all, the fight against organ harvesting requires a multifaceted approach by introducing explicit definition, empowering international oversight, fostering cross-border collaboration, and amending existing law. That is all from me. Thank you.
To conclude the presentation, we are of the stance that organ harvesting is indeed a crime against humanity. The process of obtaining organs illegally includes torturing victims and also killing them in the process. This violates multiple treaties and deprives the victim of their rights of protection and to life. In addition, these processes are done non-consensually, where the victims would be put under anesthetics while their organs are taken against their will while they are unconscious. The networking process to seek out this victim may also be classified as a crime against humanity, widening the range of crime against humanity and the attacks on innocent victims. Their covert operations makes it hard for them and the government to track, especially if it has spread too widely. The existing laws have covered on the issue of organ harvesting and the consequences that it may lead to. However, organ harvesting is still an ongoing issue. Hence, the states will have to pay more attention to enforcing their laws sufficiently enough to protect their victims. Since organ harvesting, parties usually work through networking and also threatening former victims to recruit their new victims. It has proven time and time to become a challenge to detect the culprits behind the inhuman acts. Hence, it is important that the states step up and enforce stricter laws while deploying sufficient forces to locate the culprits behind the crime. That is all from us. Thank you.